Guys, the AI layoffs continue. Standard Chartered just announced they are going to lay off 7,000 jobs in an effort to replace, quote, lower value human capital with AI and automation. Guys, the AI revolution is here. Today, we're going to be talking about who's going to be impacted, what is happening with Standard Chartered, why it should matter to you. And then if you stick around to the end, I have a special message to all the men out there. I know women are going to be impacted by the AI revolution, but I want to just kind of touch on, I think, a unique issue that men face. And stick around to the end and I'll get into that. In the meantime, let's talk about what's happening with Standard Chartered. So Standard Chartered is a bank and they are headquartered in London. And they just released a notice that AI is going to be their primary driver to slim down their operations, increase their profitability, and overtake the competition. And the banking and finance world is particularly susceptible to AI replacement. And again, we're going to cover that here in a moment. But before we do that, I do just want to say, listen, don't just take my word for it. The CEO, Bill Winters, had some very illuminating quotes. He said, quote, "It's not cost cutting. It's replacing, in some cases, lower value human capital with the financial capital and the investment capital we're putting in." He continued, "Of course, we're using AI along the way, and AI will be a huge facilitator and enabler." And listen, on this channel, we're covering AI news, layoffs, how it's impacting guys like you and me 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. And I think the message is really hitting home because the channel's been growing about 10% month over month. I feel like, you know, when I go out and I speak to people at parties or at the ball field or at church, different places, it feels like people just don't get it. It feels like they want to bury their head in the sand, but there is a tidal wave coming. And again, I feel like it's compelling and it's important for us to be congregating together, sharing conversation. If you have a great comment, put in the chat below. I've pinned comments in the past. I'll pin comments in the future. Because the reality is that we're seeing a huge spike in layoffs directly attributed to AI. In fact, last year, 5% of layoffs were attributed to AI. So far this year, over 16%. We're seeing a huge spike in companies that are effectively streamlining and cutting positions. And again, we'll cover that in a little bit more detail in just a moment. Because what's interesting about what Standard Chartered is doing is they're basically saying, hey, we're going to be AI centric and you can either get on board or you can jump ship. The CEO, Bill Winters, also said, quote, "So the people that want to reskill, that want to carry on, we're giving every opportunity to reposition." And this is a really key point, guys. And I covered this in a video a few months ago, that there are, a lot of people don't like AI. You probably saw there have been several speeches at universities where speakers that are pro-AI get booed. It's because we can see the writing on the wall. We can see that AI is replacing jobs and traditional positions. And listen, I'm not an AI doomer, as some of you might consider just watching my videos. I actually think that AI is going to bring a lot of opportunities, but there's going to be a lot of short-term pain for the people, like Bill Winters pointed out, that don't want to adapt these new tools. Are you using Claude? Are you using AI agents? Are you using the AI programs within your company's CRM? Is your company not adapting AI? Maybe that's a position and an initiative that you can get rolling. I think that's just really, really important. It's also worth noting that this is not like a last-ditch effort. We've seen cases over the past few months where companies are doing very bad financially, and they kind of use AI as a scapegoat. Like, we're going to cut a bunch of costs for AI, and it's because they're just not driving revenue like they had in the past, right? That's not the case here with Standard Chartered, because this company's stock has risen over 65% in the past 12 months. And then upon making this announcement, it fell 0.5% in early trading. So this kind of goes against the narrative that I'm seeing, where people say, hey, look, the only reason that AI, that these cuts are happening is they're having a bad quarter or a bad year, and they're using AI as a scapegoat. And I'm not going to say that that never happens, but that's not always the case. So I think there's a lot more context. So what does this mean for you, right? Which roles are being replaced? In the case of Standard Chartered, we're going to be looking at a lot of back office type of work being replaced, like operations support, compliance processing, reporting, internal reporting, financial and administrative workflows. A lot of this stuff is being automated. Like, we really want to look at what are the manual data entry and reconciliation type of tasks. Like, I think in every organization, you should be looking at and kind of keeping track of, like, what are all the tasks that I'm doing on a daily basis, and where can AI and where can automation play a part in streamlining those operations. And I've talked about this in past videos. One of my favorite things to do now with clients is use Claude Cowork specifically. It's unbelievably powerful. Smash the like button if you've been enjoying Claude Cowork. To just perform tasks that I would typically maybe take an hour to complete, or I would send over to an assistant to complete. Now I just ask Claude Cowork to do it. And I found it's particularly powerful at creating landing pages, charts. It's great with creating spreadsheets, even opening up and assessing performance on Google ads and meta ads that I'm performing and I'm managing for customers and clients. It's just, I feel just much more effective when I'm using a tool like Claude Cowork. Now, banking is interesting. Financial services are interesting because they're in a particularly susceptible place to AI, especially the back end and non-customer facing roles. You know, you're dealing with a lot of like structured documents, a lot of repetitive workflows, as I had mentioned before, a lot of customer service type of scripting, getting on calls. All those call centers in India are like really, really in trouble because AI is just tremendous. And I covered this in a video a little while ago. I'll post a link to it here. I've referenced it before. But I was speaking to a friend of mine who runs a regional auto mechanic shop, and you would know the name of the company if I mentioned it, but they're using an after hours service, which is an AI voice customer service rep, and it's responsible for booking 20%, 15 to 20% of all the appointments in their garage, in their bay. And that's just a hard fact, guys. That's a quantitative number on AI's ability to speak. And I was talking to him 6 months ago. It's only getting better, guys. It's only getting better. And I think, you know, what is important to realize here, and this is a common thing that I hear guys saying, and I think this makes a lot of sense, is that AI gets stuff wrong. So as more and more AI and automation get rolled out, we're gonna run into a lot more compliance type of problems. There's gonna be problems. They're gonna need validity. They're gonna need accuracy. They're gonna need guys like us who could go in and make sure that all the data is copacetic. Earlier today, I was on a call with a marketing company who has a SaaS software that basically creates a pixel for anyone that lands on the page, and it just gets a ton of data. And one of the questions I asked was, how accurate is the data that you're getting? And of course, they said it's 95% plus accurate, et cetera, et cetera. But you know, the proof is in the pudding, assuming that we're gonna test out this SaaS product. Regardless, the point I'm trying to make here is that as more and more companies are rolling out more and more AI and automation, there's gonna be new problems that are started, and that's on us to find those problems to solve. And I also just wanna point out the jobs that are gonna be safe here. And these are gonna be the jobs that are very reliant on relationships, that require high trust, wealth management, executive advisory, complicated and complex deal making. The reality is we're still in a world where humans don't really like speaking to robots. And I'll post a link. I recorded a video that goes through exactly how AI is being implemented in sales right now. All the different pain points and all the different processes, every single point in the sales process, from prospect research to lead generation to cleanup to outreach to deal creation to closing, all of it. I go through the whole thing. And where AI really kind of falls short is in being too robotic and mechanical, because humans don't like really talking to robots at this point. So humans want to talk to humans. And the relationships are going to really matter, especially if you're looking at a bank like Standard Chartered. I mean, think about it this way. Like, when's the last time, like when I was growing up, we would go to a teller at the bank. You go through drive-through, you go through the teller, you'd put your checks or your money into this like little vacuum tube, zips over. That's not there anymore. That's not there anymore, guys. It's all digital. And you might say, well, what about the people that were working those jobs? Yeah, they migrated to new jobs. The reality, guys, is that as the technology improves and gets better, there's going to be new problems to solve. And I think that's where we need to slot in. And I want to kind of relay this and shift over to a quick point to all the fellas out there, to all the guys. And listen, if you're a female you're watching, love you, stay tuned. But I do want to talk to the men out there, because the problems, AI is definitely going to impact women in the workplace, for sure. Okay, clerical roles and so on and so forth, right? But it hits men differently, guys. I was talking to my wife the other day because she was kind of making a comment that, like, I don't feel like you pay enough attention to me, and when I call you, you don't always answer. And I was like, are you sure? Because I feel like I do a pretty good job answering your calls. And I actually took out my phone log, and I showed that over the past month, there was one call that I missed and I didn't call her back. And I was like, listen, I think I'm doing a pretty good job when you look at the data. It seems to me like you feel like I'm not doing what you would expect, but do you feel like one missed call in a month, is that like reasonable to you? Because I don't know how much better I can get. So anyway, we're still kind of working through that. But the point I'm trying to make here is that, and I was kind of explaining to her, is as men, we have a responsibility to provide. I've got a wife, I've got kids, and that the providing is not necessarily only financial. Financial is a big part of it, but I need to get my kids to baseball practice. I need to practice with them. I need to make sure that they feel loved. I make sure that they get attention. Same thing with her. I need to make sure I'm taking my wife out on date night. I got to make sure that we're, getting jiggy with it. I need to make sure that she feels like she's heard and respected. But at the same time, I got to make sure that my body's on point. I got to make sure I'm exercising daily. You know what I'm saying? I got to make sure I have my own free time so that I can unwind. And when you're like me and you're a small business owner, you're doing consulting work, you're recording awesome YouTube videos regularly, there's only so much time in a day, And there's a lot of pressure. And so when I see all these layoffs happening and I see all the guys who are going to be on the breadline because they lose their job, it makes me feel like really cruddy. It makes me feel really bad. But I also just want to put this out there, is our most valuable asset is time. And that is one of the things that AI can give us back. And that's why I'm just so excited about what AI is doing for me, for my clients, for my business. I'm more focused on marketing, automations, lead gen, customer acquisition, lifetime value, target addressable market, all the vocab words. But I think about how much time AI is buying me back, and that gets me excited. That gets me excited. On one hand, I'm concerned and I'm nervous. What happens if I lose a couple big clients really quickly? That would suck. The other day I recorded a video of being on a cruise ship, and one of the guys was like, someone left a comment like, I don't think you should be recording. Well, there were two interesting comments. One comment was, I don't think you should be recording video of you on a cruise ship because there's a guy out here struggling. And I'm like, listen, I'm gonna be authentic. I'm not gonna go and pretend like I'm not making money. I'm not gonna pretend like I'm making more money than I am. I'm just gonna be authentic. I'm gonna be real. This is gonna be me every time talking with y'all. It's not gonna be an AI bot talking to you. I'm not gonna have some sort of AI avatar here on the channel. It's gonna be me. And I'm gonna tell you straight how it is. And I know that sometimes you might disagree with me, and I think that's important. I like Bill Maher a lot, and there's a lot of things that he says that I disagree with, but I think that he's at least being true to himself. And I think, guys, as men, what else can we ask for? We need to feel like there's something we can strive for. We need to feel like there's something we can build. We need to feel like we are relevant, that we can get respect, that we can reach financial freedom. And there's gonna be ups and downs. AI is a huge threat. It brings huge opportunities. Our families, our communities are asking more from us every single day. And how can we leverage AI to win that time back so we can actually be there for them? And I'm gonna close it out here, but I just want to give one quick example. I volunteered to be a coach for my son's travel t-ball team, and which is way more than I ever expected. If you hear me, just type in the comments below if you know what I'm talking about. But it's way more involved than I originally expected. And earlier today, I just used Claude to write up a whole spreadsheet for evaluations, something that probably would have taken me 35 to 45 minutes. Claude just did it, and I don't have to think about it now. Now it's all done. We're using AI to create lineups. We're using AI to deliver messages to the families. All this stuff that would have taken me time, I'm able to cut by about 90%. And so that's the way that I think we should be thinking, guys. You know? Anyway, what do you think? Am I tripping? Am I complaining too much? Let me know. In the meantime, be blessed. Go out and make it great. If you like today's video, check out yesterday's video where I talk about this cruise line, which they kind of scammed me, guys. They kind of scammed me, but I was able to fight back and bring one home for the fellas and not accept. Don't just accept it. All right? Check out yesterday's video. I think you'll enjoy it. I'll see you later. Peace.